Welcome to Real Hi-Fi Help. Let's have a look at the Holo Audio Dac. So it's this bad boy here. Apparently you can get it in several steps, several upgrade steps. So this isn't actually a review of something that I've heard, but my friend has heard it, and he has a system that is a lot better than mine, and some ears that are really, really, really good. And I thought that this would be very interesting because usually when you get to read and see reviews, those are usually reviews done on systems that are lower to mid end, and perhaps once in a while you get like one of these pretend higher end systems, or you get an actual higher end system. But here we're dealing with testing a product on one of the best systems in the world, and it's just very interesting listening to what my friend told me about this DAC. He compared it to a lot of DACs, the Audio Note DAC 2.1 Signature, and a hell of a lot of other DACs, the built-in DAC, the really cheap built-in DAC in his own Yamaha DAC. And yeah, spoiler alert, this DAC actually sounds, for once, as a DAC that is better than the one he has built in his Yamaha what's it called, amplifier. So not a lot of DACs managed to do that. So yeah, this review is going to be pretty interesting, but let me just put this in perspective just so you get an idea of the quality that we're dealing with. There are a lot of products on the market that I just generally won't even touch. I won't want to focus on it simply because it's on such a low level. And I like to mention it would be nice to actually mention those products, but I'd rather not do that. That's just going to get me in trouble. So I'll just kind of, generalize a bit here. This isn't completely accurate, but I think it paints a very good picture of the quality of DAC that we're dealing with here. So I believe that there are around 10 levels of DAC sound, out there, So I've made this the first level. That's basically the lowest level before you get to actually use a DAC. You usually get this direct CD type of sound where you don't get any DAC involved. It's at a very low level, and then you get the normal lowest quality DACs, and then we get this new generation of DACs that are actually really good value. Denafreps, Aquavox, stuff like that. A lot of these R2R DACs. You could possibly also say Hegel and Nade and stuff like that. The better models that they have. And then there's this category that I'm looking at here, which is like a step beyond that. That sound. I would put it in a category 4 out of 10. Now, this is where things really start to get interesting. I don't feel that with Denafreps and Aquavox and stuff like that it's really good enough to fully satisfy all the people, all the users on the market. I really don't feel that. I feel that it's good value. You just get a lot of good sound for your money, but it's still going to sound a bit weird, and like one of my friends told me, comical and just not natural. This sort of half fake analog sound, but most people aren't used to that level of quality, so of course it's going to blow them away, and they're going to go like, whoa, this Denafreps DAC higher up in the same family line is so much better than the previous Denafreps DAC. Yeah, that might be right, but to me, it's all just not good enough. But I get it. That's just my opinion. But I feel that with the Holo May Dac, that we're finally getting up to a quality where me and some of my friends would actually consider having that DAC for a short amount of time. And then, of course, after that, we're dealing with proper DACs after that. I hate to burst people's bubble, but then we're actually starting to deal with proper DACs, things that are significantly better. And that's stuff like the first Negra DACs, some of the better MLabs DACs, playback design DACs, stuff like that, you know? And then after that category, then I feel that only when we enter this category 6 out of 10, only then are we dealing with proper substance, proper musicality, getting all of those small details, you know, in between the details and gluing it all together, just making it come together as a whole. I feel that only happens when we get up to these DACs that are at the level of the Audio Note 2.1 DAC signature. I haven't really heard a lot of DACs that are at this level, and if they are, usually they then cost, like I've written here, they usually cost, I would say, 3, 4, 5, 6 times more than this DAC for it to really, you know, start to get into this category where we get these super musical qualities. And I feel that to beat that, we have to then again, get into Audio Note DACs, but then the newer Audio Note 3.1 balanced DAC or the older DAC 4. Here we just, again, it almost totally reinvents the DAC sound from Audio Note. Here we just get into a much more evolved type of sound. And I feel that these two, at least, definitely this one, basically beats all the DACs on the market. I know it sounds arrogant, but it's really that good. There are so many DACs on the market that just gives you the information, the detail, the, what do you call it, timbre, decay, top, middle, bottom end. I mean, the information is there, but it's just in a non-human, long-lasting way where you can just put any track on and it just, you know, it keeps you interested, you know, for several hours. We still haven't really, even with stuff at this level here, we still haven't reached that level. And these are DACs that are probably, you know, 15, 20, 25, 30, $40,000. They can't even get up to this DAC level, which is, I don't know, I'm guessing around $5,000 in the US. And it just kind of tells you that the focus that we have is too much on noise reduction, too much on chips and all of these fancy things, which you know, it gives you more detail, but it just doesn't give you, you know, long-lasting music sessions. You know, it gives you a very impressive, almost drug-like line of information, you know, and they are really impressive, these DACs here. You know, they really are impressive, but again, you're just not getting the full music experience. And yeah, this category here really lags behind some of these DACs, you know, MLabs, Playback Design, Burmeister, whatever they're called, these really expensive products, you know, they do some parts of the detail that really are in a way better than the Audio Note DAC. But I just think that overall you'll still gravitate towards this with most systems. And yeah, this is basically how I see it. So again, we get a step up to the class 8s out of 10 DACs. And again, nothing at all on the market comes close to this. This is just so deep, musical, cemented, solid. Makes this sound here seems just a tad bit frail and not fully beefed up. We're dealing with a really, really, really solid sound here. A lot of meat on the bone, a lot of pressure, crazy amounts of deep layered bass, and it just gets better with the next level. The signature model gets even better. And we're currently, I think Audionote currently are working on some kind of a Audionote R2R DAC that they will perhaps in the near future release. I don't know, but I've seen pictures on it online, and I've heard it one place, and this again is a completely different sound that just disintegrates this level of DAC that already destroys the market. So I think that's probably going to cost as much as a house, depending on if they're only going to probably leave it for the DAC 5 market, or maybe even go down to DAC 4 or 3 models. But I see the future of DACs being here if Audionote can do it. I kind of doubt that they can, because as soon as you deal with these really expensive, high quality resistors, it's really difficult keeping them in line without having errors that occur that create some kind of a malfunction. So that will be exciting to see if we can, within the next 10 years, get that released. The amount of fleshed out detail is just insane. The layering, the depth of the bass, there's just so much meat on the bone, so much musicality. I hope they can do that one day. And this is basically the highest level that I've heard. I haven't heard anything on the market really coming close to this. I've heard a lot of really good DACs, but again, even with the Negra DAC, the first ones that they made, they're still a bit grey. They're still a bit boring. They still don't have quite the musicality and ability to make everything sound fantastic and grab your attention, and so you're just locked for several hours. It's still a fantastically good DAC. Playback design DACs also, especially the top models that they make, fantastically good. The top M Labs DAC, and there are also like 10-20 other brands in the same price category that also make DACs that have like 1, 2, 3 parts of the detail that are just like really awesome, that makes you want more and more and more. But I feel that it isn't quite there yet, for these things to seem relatively natural. These levels of DACs, you typically have to have a complete playback design system or MLab system or whatever system, and like a Negra system, once you have a whole Negra system, of course it gets a lot more natural, but it still doesn't quite enter this realm that I've mentioned here in regards to naturality. So yeah, just wanted to tell you guys this, and of course the very best DAC in the world is the Audionote 5th Element. I heard this from a guy that I trust. This is supposed to be at around this level, but I think that when this gets released at the higher levels, it will most likely beat this. Again, most people in their life will never ever hear these last two levels. Okay, they'll probably sniff a bit to this, get an old version, hear it on a half bad audio note system, and then they go like, "Oh, I saw this guy from Real Hi-Fi Help. He said that it was like some of the best stuff in the world. That it beat most things, but it doesn't even sound better than like X brand DAC, Macintosh or whatever, you know." And again, this thing could still fail on a lot of systems that aren't set up in a proper way, but most likely on the random system, I would say that this still, together with this, has a much better chance than any random 90% DAC out there on the market, in any random system. So just think about that. Something to think about that. I wrote some extra things here that are also a bit interesting. Okay, now for the final review. I just wanted to give you guys some perspective, just so you know what this thing is, how it compares to the rest. Yes, again, I have not heard it, but I've heard my friend describe the sound into detail. And I actually, this really goes to show, I actually, before he told me what it was like, I told him what I think it's like based on the reviews, the build quality, and all the experience that I had. And it's really interesting. So I actually guessed right. I said to him that I think that it's a very detailed DAC. I think it has a lot of information, and I think that the noise reduction is on a whole other level compared to the standard. What is the standard of the market? Let's go up again. The standard of the market is something that is below the Denafrips DACs, the Aquavox DACs, all of these normal, I don't know, what do they cost? $2, $3, $4, $5, $10,000 DACs. The standard that people have of DACs nowadays is something that's probably only $500 to $1,000, and it's some kind of random brand. Let's call it a Musical Fidelity, Vincent, whatever brand out there, DAC, Arkham, whatever. That's the standard of DAC that people are used to. So of course, when they go to a class 2 DAC, to a class 3, then they're gonna think like, whoa, Denafrips, it's the best thing in the world. So much, it's product of the year. So a lot of reviewers said that, product of the year, fantastically good, blah blah blah. Again, when you have these lower quality systems, it might seem like that, but once you get up to a really, really good system, then you actually start hearing Denafrips, Aquavox, Holiday May, all of these DACs, you hear them from a completely different angle, where you're really pushing the sound. And when you're really pushing the sound, then you're going, in a way, past the makeup part of the sound. Then you can really hear what's going on. So he told me it's extremely detailed and it's extremely black. And yes, it actually is more beautiful, more natural, more interesting than most DACs below this price and up to this price and a bit past this price. As far as I know, he tried all 3 levels. I think they made 3 levels of this, and yeah. It's just a very intelligent sound, and it doesn't quite have this comical, weird, fake analog R2R sound which you hear with the Denafrips and the Aquavox DACs when you put those on really good systems. It doesn't quite have that. Yes, I guess that this DAC here is one of the few DACs that me and my friends would probably recommend for a lot of audiophiles that are at the higher levels. I wouldn't say the highest levels, definitely not the highest levels, but at the higher levels. And yeah, you could probably also get away with having this on some lower level systems. Without a doubt, without a doubt. So let me just tell you guys a story, because my friend was hesitating buying the Audio Note DAC 2.1 signature, and he still hasn't bought it yet. He's still like really close, stuck in his thinking box, thinking like what am I gonna settle with, and then I actually told him some very wise words that I'm about to read up to you, and that's this thing here that I think we all do to some extent when we have a new piece of gear, and that's, watch out with hearing the potential of the sound instead of the actual sound of how it's realistically going to sound in your system. Listen to what it's realistically going to give you of good sound, and not just that light that you feel is there, and you can kind of tune into, and you can get into a much better sound. But realistically, is that really going to happen? I mean, I heard that sound when I got my Macintosh MA 6900. I fell in love with that, and that clouded my judgment because I hadn't borrowed it home before I bought it. I hadn't had it for several weeks. And when you don't have something and it's very different, it's very easy to think that it's better than it really is. But he was really excited. He was really excited about the promising I22S, I2S or whatever you call it, connection at the back. He said he actually got a really good sound using that, and I believe him. He is really into trying to get this I2S sound to push it to the max, because he's convinced, because of the extreme amount of bandwidth it has, that it has a potential of sounding better than RCA, coax, whatever connection, USB. He probably is right that capacity wise it could be one of the best sounds out there if you can get away with doing that. But I also told him that I2S doesn't couple power wise on high level systems usually. There probably are exceptions to the rule, but when you think about it, in the end, what it depends on, whether you're using I2S, RCA, coax, USB, whatever, you have to have a power coupling in the end that gives you all aspects of the sound. And when I told him this, he also said to me, yeah, you are kind of right that it has a very sexy sound that does a lot of good things that a lot of other DACs can't do. And it's really tempting buying this DAC, but he also just told me that it just doesn't have that long-lasting effect on the sound. There is some isolation of detail, noise control that is really impressive with this DAC, but it just can't do voices and instruments in a way where you feel like this is the real thing. It's not going to get better than this. It still sounds digital, and that's what we don't want with a DAC. Most DACs in the world still sound digital. But yeah, of course, the more that you pay, the more information you get, the more convincing it gets, the more layers you have. Of course, the more it grabs your attention. But still, most DACs in the world sound digital. And digital sound just doesn't last unless you can do it at an extremely high level. Only then does the digital sound convince you, so you can listen to random pieces of music. And it still isn't quite at that level with this DAC. It is a really impressive DAC. It's just the musicality, the magic, the real instruments, just like I've said. And again, I'll repeat myself. There is a lot of music out there that you might not like. Put that on a random DAC. How long are you really going to then listen to that track? Well, the better the DAC, the longer you're going to listen to it, of course. But again, you just can't just have sophisticated information. You need the sound of really expensive components. You just can't get away with that. That's also one of the reasons why I just, there are a lot of Macintosh products that are, well above the standard of the market. And I'm talking about their amplifiers. They make some pretty decent amplifiers. But I feel that the built-in DAC that they have, a lot of them, they do things that sound pretty damn good. But that's mostly because of the amplifier and the integration of the DAC, limiting the signal path, making it relatively short, and having that similar type of sound. But at the end of the day, that built-in DAC in a lot of those Macintosh products, they still sound like a DAC that's Class D DAC, and you just can't move a Class D DAC much in sound. You can move it, but it still will be Class D DAC sound. You'll never get into the really, completely free analog soulful sound that just makes you want to sob and cry for hours and hours and hours. You'll be browsing through your Spotify or Apple Play Music or whatever it's called, Tidal, Cubuzz, whatever, and you'll be browsing. You'll be going through a lot of tracks, and yeah, you'll listen to some tracks and it'll be good and it will do this and that detail, but you just can't leave it and let it play. You have to constantly look for stuff, and that's what I'm trying to say. There's a different listening mode where you're in your head, you're thinking, and that's what I'm saying. With most DACs on the market, it's the thinking type of sound for people that listen with their brain instead of listen with their heart and their body, and just like turning the brain off and just like really being there and feeling that, wow, this is the best experience that you can have in the world. I feel that it just is like that. It's really difficult, especially with transistor gear, and when you're getting into this AB, and especially Class D DACs. It just doesn't quite do it, even though it does so many things that are so cool, and especially in regards to clarity, focus, crispness, soundstage, some of the layering. It is really impressive on a lot of those higher end DACs, but the stuff that really keeps you glued, it just isn't quite there yet. That's what I'm trying to say. So, I mean, I think we've learned a bit, me and my friend, that yeah, there are a handful of DACs out there that still don't quite hit it at the full natural level, but have so much information that it will still give you enough time to distract you so you don't feel like you're missing out on anything, you know? So the real question is, when you then get a Holoday Mac, Holoday Dac, are you, if you're gonna create a really good coupling, pairing that with, let's just say, a Macintosh amplifier, Aquaphase, whatever gear, if you can create a really good coupling, I think you can probably make it so believable that most people will think that it's natural and they won't even consider upgrading. And fine, if you can do that, then you're probably one of the, I don't know, 10% of people that are able to do that, and fine. I still feel that these types of DACs are still relevant as soon as we get to this level here, you know, the Holiday DAC level. I feel that at that level, which is, I would say, the Macintosh MCD 1100 DAC level, this is equivalent. This DAC is equivalent to the DAC, the best DAC that we had when they released on the market about 8 or 10 years ago, that were like 2 or 3 times the price. This is the situation that we're in now, where we can get this same DAC sound for much cheaper price. So there you have it. And if you want just I just still feel that making that whole journey of making this type of gear sound convincingly enough, so it's got the proper balance, integration, naturality, instruments, voices, emotional response. The journey you have to take to make that sound as natural as possible is such a long journey. You have to kind of ask yourself, are you willing to go on that journey to do that? That is also, you know, a part of hi-fi that makes it very attractive. The journey, the hunt, just trying a lot of different things and seeing, you know, how does this react? What different types of sound? If I would take this Holoday Mac DAC and put it on a, I don't know, Aquaphase or Macintosh or, you know, Nader Hegel system, how would it then sound? You know, that is part of the charm of the whole hi-fi world. I just feel that if you're one of those types of people that don't want to go through that journey, and you haven't got all the time and money in the world, and you don't want to learn the hard way, I just feel that it's just so much, makes so much more sense just getting the AudioNote DAC 2.1 signature or something like that, because then it becomes focused around the quality of the music. And yeah, in the end, that's what it's really about. Not just hearing, you know, snare drum detail here and this thing being isolated from that, and then decay timbre. I mean, that's all impressive, but at the end of the day, does it really rock your boat? Is it really a long-lasting sound? Because I just feel that still with these DACs here, you know, when we're talking about these levels here, which basically this is basically the entire market. You know, most of the market is here. It's most likely like 95% of DACs in the world, they are in those categories: 2, 3, 4, 5. out of 10, and you're gonna get a lot of this and that type of detail, and it's, just my experience just tells me that it's just gonna be a lot of heartbreak, and it's gonna be interesting, but we all can't just put 3, 5, 10, 20, 30, 40,000 dollars into a Dac and then say like, oh yeah, then I want to try a new Dac and then a new Dac. It just price wise doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But if I had an endless amount of money, I would still probably do that. Try all the Dacs in the world, own each of them for like a month. That would be fun to do. But I'm just thinking from a like a realistic perspective of someone watching my videos, a normal regular dude on the market. Like seriously, what I would do instead is just take a shortcut and say, fine, get this Dac here, and then perhaps there's some detail that you'll miss out on compared to these other Dacs, but money wise, yeah, I mean, you're safe. You've got a long listening session going on for like ever and ever, and yeah, you can always make it more interesting by changing the tube or the RCA or the coax cable, and then suddenly you've got sound again for another 5 or 10 years, and then perhaps at that time later you can get like a used Dac 3 or maybe even a newer Dac 4 or something like that, and then that's like the end. Then you've basically reached the end of what you can reach for, and there won't really be anything on the market beating that. That's just my view on the detail. So yeah, if you guys want to unlock some of my videos, turn it from 200 to 400 videos, you just go into sort, go over to the oldest videos, and then just take them from start to end. So yeah, I hope you guys like this review. Like and subscribe if you can.